Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Burning Roar podcast. I'm Jake Scarborough, joined by my co-hosts Kyler Boggs and Fidel Fabian. How you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Pretty good.
All right. Well, quite a bit to talk about this week. Obviously, starting off with the elephant in the room with the Cup Series race, but we'll get to that in a second. Truck Series race, Atlanta. Your guys' review as we usually do. Kyler, feel free.
Honestly, I mean, nothing much went on from what I saw. I didn't watch a lot of it, but towards the end, I just the it kind of disappoints me that no one wants to work together to try and benefit themselves. It's all about one to benefit only themselves rather than both of them. I think it was Corey Heim and Ty Majeski, if I wasn't mistaken, to try and pass Kyle Busch. Instead of trying to work with each other to get past him, they tried to pass each other, which ultimately led to Kyle Busch, winning the Truck Series race really without any effort, to be honest, because it seemed like anytime someone got up to Kyle, they just sort of had their own race with each other rather than trying to form an idea to get around him. So that was kind of disappointing, but I mean, it didn't surprise me because that's kind of what the Truck Series has been when it comes to plate tracks. No one really wants to work together whenever they think that they're gonna be like in a prime position to win the race and stuff. But you know, Kyle Busch wins again, not in a KBM truck, but in a Spire truck, which is certainly new. I know it's, not the same seeing the KBM trucks on the track anymore, but it is certainly nice to see Kyle Busch get that one again.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm basically the same exact thing what Tyler said. Truck Series Atlanta. I mean, it was a cleaner race than what Daytona showcased 2 weeks ago, but I don't. I think that track is basically only built for Cup cars. It's a pretty dull race. Just like Tyler only watched like the last 18, 15 laps of the race, so not much I can comment on. But from what I saw, it was a 6 out of 10 race.
all right. Um, you know, it was an Atlanta race. I feel like we've seen better in the past. Obviously, there's the difference with how the track's been aging. I feel like it's getting better with age, maybe, especially for Cup. But as I said, we'll get into that. For trucks and Xfinity, though, didn't really look that good. It just kind of stuck as a one car or one line train around the entire track, the entire race. And as Kyler mentioned, guys in second and third battling just kind of ruined it. Didn't have a chance to pass Kyle. So Kyle Busch going to victory lane. Love him, hate him. Love the fact that a Cup guy is going to trucks to win a race. I know that's been a big issue in the past for fans, but now that Kyle's one of a fan favorites now, since he's a Chevy guy, didn't really see many people complaining about it, which not surprised. But racing could have been better, could have been worse. I'm just gonna smack it down as a 5 out of 10. That's best way to put it, in my opinion. Just a race, if you will. Um, Moving forward from that, we had the Xfinity Series race at Atlanta, which really was about how people expected. But Kyler, the floor is yours.
I mean, it was just like any other pretty much Xfinity race. Cautions at the end, like normal for, your typical Xfinity race. But something I didn't really understand is that NASCAR wasted a lot of laps under caution when they knew people were trying to save fuel and everything. Because I think it was Ryan Sieg that ran out of fuel. I think they ran like maybe over 5 laps of caution under, yellow and stuff. And that's something I didn't really understand because um, all you have to do is pretty much drive, push Ryan Sieg back to the pit lane, get everyone lined up, and have a restart again. But um, that's something I didn't really understand. And of course, as we saw, I think in the last restart, multiple people ran out of fuel. Um, Kligerman was one. I think it was also Jesse Love also ran out at the restart. Riley Herbst ran out. Cole Custer did. So it was kind of underwhelming to see, a lot of strong guys run out of fuel towards the end of the race, and not only that, it just kind of like crosses my mind of, you know, why NASCAR takes a little bit longer than I think they should with how many laps they do under caution, especially for, a car just running out of fuel. So that's something I don't really understand, but I'm sure there's a lot more that goes on to that because I'm sure that NASCAR wants everyone to have the option to pit, get lined up, get the lead lap cars, get waiver on cars, all that stuff. So I guess that all goes into that, but it's still I still have mixed feelings about, how many laps they run under caution for stuff that doesn't really need to be that much under yellow. But the race, I think it was okay. I mean, it was just a regular race in my opinion, so probably like maybe like a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, basically, again, on the same board with Kyler. We were going to have a really exciting field strategy race at the end of that Xfinity race because overall, the Xfinity series with plate tracks recently has just been pretty dull, with in terms of just racing in general. And again, with what Kyler said, I don't understand why NASCAR took so many laps under yellow, but I don't know. Austin Hill at plate tracks is just like 23-11 at Kansas. They are somehow so dominant, and now they have, after 2 races, they have 2 wins. And yeah, I don't know. The Xfinity race was just something to say the least. Another 6 out of 10 for me.
All right. Um, you know, Austin Hill wins another plate race. Are you surprised? No. Was the race good? Not really. Past few years, Atlanta's been good, as I said. Tracks developing with age, and I feel like eventually we're gonna be looking at. I find it's hard to put it, but when Texas put down the PJ1 for and what we saw the racing look like with IndyCar, I feel like that's what we're gonna look at Atlanta as. It's gonna become very shitty racing for a while, and then all of a sudden the track's gonna become extremely good, almost best racing we've had in a while there. So I feel like in a couple of years' time, hopefully next year it's better. I don't see the second race there being much better because there is a second race, right? It's in the summer.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. But I don't see the race being good again at the end of the year. As for this one, it's about what you'd expect after seeing the truck race and knowing Austin Hill was in the field at 6.5 out of 10, just to be a little better than the truck race. But yeah, it could have been a great finish based on field strategy. NASCAR being NASCAR, kind of making some oddball calls and decisions with the caution laps, as Kyler mentioned. It's not a race you'd like to see in that way, but at the end of the day, I think the big takeaway was seeing SVG finish third, which was absolutely insane for his like third oval race ever, fourth. But moving on from that, we had the Cup Series race. Well, that was the elephant in the room. So, Kyler,
Yeah, I tried to watch it while I was at work, so I didn't watch a lot of it. I know that on lap two, I think it was Todd Gilliland trying to let in Michael McDowell for the high side on lap two, and it caused a pretty big crash that took out or damaged at least a good number of people. And I know I know Todd is just trying to help out his teammate, but on lap two, I feel like that's not something you really should be doing, considering it's that early in the race, and considering everyone was still formed really well in the bottom and the top, because stuff like that, especially at Atlanta, it's different than Daytona and Talladega because you have multiple lanes to move yourself across from, unlike Atlanta, because of how much tighter it is. But I feel like that was a little bit of a bad judgment on Todd's part, causing that stack up because I think it was Truex that got in the back of Austin Dillon, turned him across the track, and collected 10 plus cars. So that wasn't pretty to see, as you know, it took out a quite a number of people. It took out fast cars. I think Reddick was involved, Bowman was involved as well. So it took out quite a bit of fast cars and pretty much handicapped them for the rest of the race, which was a shame to see. But I think later on, Logano tried to clear himself and got himself turned against the wall and caused that incident. So I feel like, I wasn't able to watch the whole race, but based on what I saw, is I feel like quite a bit of drivers made some bad judgment calls on, if I should, let someone in, or should I clear myself, or whatever the case may be. But towards the end of the race, the racing looked really good. Obviously, the last restart with, Kyle Busch, Suarez, and Blaney, that was really good. It was pretty insane to see them pretty much three wide from turns three to the start finish line. And it was almost, I think, three wide for fourth on back as well, with Chastain, Bubba Wallace, and whoever was behind them. But I feel like because of that photo finish with the Cup Series, and Suarez getting his second win, I feel like NASCAR is gonna look at this racing as, some really good racing. And like you said before, with the track aging really well, it's gonna become more like a Cup dominant track, in my opinion, from what it looks like based on the racing. Because Xfinity is just, a regular Xfinity race. Trucks, not really that great, but Cup, it's starting to improve, so that's good. But yeah, I feel like that was a pretty good finish. Uh, to, I think, I mean, based on what I saw at least, an above average race up until the end, where, that last restart went into place.
Yeah, going into the Atlanta weekend, the same kind of discourse has always happened ever since the reconfiguration of old Atlanta versus new Atlanta. How people really like the old, tire eating Atlanta that on great photo finishes like Jeff Gordon and Kevin Harvick, or Senior and Bobby Labonte, or that finish in 2012 of Gordon and Johnson where they're slipping and sliding throughout three and four. And I always like that kind of Atlanta where I would always see Jerry struggling. This new Atlanta, at first, I was still on the fence of, I think this is a horrible idea. This configuration had basically made the racing just meh, bland, and horrible. But after last year's summer race and this year's Atlanta race, I I basically shut up about that. I think this kind of racing is pretty good, to say the least. It's not the old Atlanta, but at least it's something unique, something different. But now I see fans wanting Texas to have the same kind of treatment, other mile and a half to have the same treatment, but I just don't think that's the right way of doing it. Have Atlanta have what they have, but if you want to reconfigure any other mile and a half, have them do something different. Not a play track. Try to make it like old Homestead. When that track was first built, how it was nearly completely flat. I would like to see that happen to Texas. But
Well,
overall,
by
good
old
race.
Homestead, do you mean the indie version of Homestead, or like just the flat oval?
Yeah, the flat oval back in like
Okay.
the late 90s.
Okay, because when you said old Homestead, I instantly thought of like when it was shaped like Indy almost.
Yeah, no. But yeah, in my opinion, 8.5, 9 out of 10 for that race.
Hmm. Um, well, my whole take on the race is, I'm gonna say right off the bat, 9 out of 10. Best Atlanta race we've had with the new configuration. As Kyler mentioned, lots of mistakes on drivers. I feel like a lot of the mistakes, like right off the bat, we saw one from Todd Gilliland that caused a multi-car wreck. That one, I mean, that's just inexperience being at the front of the field. He's trying to play the teammate game with Michael McDowell trying to make a good teamwork, or not teamwork, but good team effort right off the bat. Obviously, front rows being a contender this year, if it's just a plate track thing or if it's just going to be this year as a whole. Um, Nevertheless, I mean, the race itself, we saw multi lines, we saw drivers having to lift in the corners, which I think that's going to be a big thing in these next few years, where they're going to have to start lifting a lot more because the track doesn't have that grip that it used to have, where you could just go full send through the corners. You're going to start sliding up more if you're trying to go full out. So I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of see it turn into a similar style of Texas, as I said already. But obviously the finish, the three wide finish coming to the line, Suarez getting that second win. That may have to start putting Ross Chastain on his A game because what, he got one win last year?
Two.
Two? Okay. When obviously we thought that he wasn't going to be able to see victory lane last year once we started getting to the closer end of it. So seeing that Trackhouse has improved significantly since joining the series, and Suarez is able to find victory lane early. That gives that group as a whole more time to kind of figure out what they need to do going into the playoffs. Chastain obviously is a guy that can find victory lane, but aside from that, we're seeing a lot of promise with NASCAR this season. Atlanta as a track as a whole, and a few of these teams that we didn't expect to be front runners at the beginning of the year. So, nevertheless, moving on from that, we have the news that Bubba Pollard, late model driver, will be racing at Richmond for Junior Motorsports. So that's a interesting move in the Xfinity series. But your guys' takes on it?
Yeah, I think it's a really good move for him. I mean, I've heard his name through, the media for a number of years now of him being a really good, late model driver and short track racer. So I think it's a really good, opportunity for him, and I think he'll do great. If I had to guess on, how he'll do, he'll probably, based on how Xfinity has gone, in the later part of the races and stuff, which I'm sure he's sort of used to in that environment where it's late race cautions and stuff and resets are crazy because we've seen that a number of times in Xfinity, and it does happen in late models as well with that type of stuff. So um I think it'll go pretty good with them. I could see him definitely finishing the top 10, maybe top 5, if he has a good enough run. Yeah, I think everything will go out work his way. I don't know if he's gonna be having race winning pace immediately right off the bat. We could be wrong, but I could definitely see him doing pretty well for sure though.
Yeah, this just is another case of Junior seeing having a good eye for talent. He did the same thing with Josh Berry. Went down to late models, see who was good, got into contact with a driver, put him in Xfinity, and just see how they can do. And just with Bubba Pollard, it's gonna be I think relatively the same thing, just like what happened to Josh Berry. But I'm just glad that lesser known drivers are getting opportunities to race in higher divisions like the Xfinity Series and may move on to Cup. But that's all I got.
All right. Well, I mean, my take on it, I think I said it last week. I don't really follow late model racing. As Kyler said, I've heard his name plenty. I feel like it's hard to kind of be in the stock car racing world and not hear the name Bubba Pollard. So, giving him a chance at a short track, knowing how Junior Motorsports has a great program. We saw it with Josh Berry where they took him out from, these weekly series to all of a sudden, oh yeah, you're an Xfinity ride, and he became a win contender right off the bat at these short tracks. So it's going to be interesting to see, how he can adapt if he does that quickly for Richmond week. I don't know if he will exactly. I'm going to agree. Yeah, he'll be a top 10 contender for sure. But race win, I feel like that's gonna be the ultimate test. Can he contend for the win that weekend? If he gets a second start, wholeheartedly, I believe he could win if he had a second start, depending on the track, obviously. But it's going to be interesting to see for sure. But another Hendrick, or well, as a Hendrick affiliate team, the Hendrick team itself made Xfinity or its own Xfinity news this past week, announcing that Boris Said will return to the team instead of running the Charlotte Roval like he did last year in like a last week effort. Um, they're announcing that he's running Sonoma in the 17. So interesting move. I'm glad they're giving him a second opportunity. But your guys' opinions?
Yeah. I think it's I definitely think it's out of the blue type of news sort of thing because I believe, the last time he actually, before attempting last year's Roval race and stuff, I think the last time he even attempted a race was I think 2017 or 2018, a very long time ago, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been a quite a long time since, we've seen him in NASCAR. Obviously, I think everyone remembers him from that I think 2009 uh, win at Circuit Joe Villeneuve and the Nationwide Series in that '09 car. But I think if he's able to make the race, considering this time the Hendrick Cars team will be a lot more prepared than before. So I think he'll definitely make the race as well. But it definitely is nice to see him back once again. I don't know how he'll do though, considering it's been a very long time since he's been racing just in NASCAR in general. Because I think after NASCAR, he just did some like invitational events like GT racing and stuff like that after NASCAR, if I'm not mistaken, for a little bit. So it definitely is nice to see him back. I don't know how he'd do though. If I had to guess, maybe top 20, top 15, if I had to guess.
Yeah, Kyler quite literally took the words out of my mouth. We won't know how he'll perform until we maybe get some practice lap average times, but hoping for the best for him. That's all I can say.
Hmm. Well, as I said already, they announced his entry to the Roval last year, like a week before the actual race. He ended up not qualifying into the race, and the team took responsibility on that because they weren't prepared for that weekend, and they just had to hope what they brought was good enough to make the show. And obviously, it wasn't. Boris was heartbroken over the radio. Um, but seeing that he's getting a second opportunity, that shows that Hendrick has faith that he can make the show if given the opportunity. And truthfully, I think they know he can compete for a win, especially in a Hendrick car. Um, as Kyler mentioned, it's been a few years since he's made an attempt aside from that Roval race. I think the last one exactly was like 2018 Coda, 2019. It was their first year at Coda, I believe.
2021.
20. Oh, wow. So, okay, it was a little sooner than I thought. Wow. I thought Coda's been on the schedule a little bit longer. Um, but he's been doing random Trans Am races, as Kyler said, just random like invitational stuff like that. So he's definitely not fully out of it. He's still got his heart in racing, it seems. Um, so it's going to be cool to see what he can do at a track that he's always shown promising results at in a top tier car. So it's going to be, it's going to be a good showing for him, I believe, and uh, you know, hoping hoping for the best. I hope to see that car run up front. Um, moving forward from that though, F1's back. We had qualifying earlier today. So your guys' takes on, I guess, podium. We'll do the podiums again.
I'm gonna go with Max Leclerc if his Ferrari doesn't blow up in the middle of the race, and Alonso. Alonso's race pace seems pretty well based on testing. His lap averages are really close. Same with Max. The big question is, it's really just about Leclerc because he's been pretty inconsistent for the past few years, especially when under pressure. Especially in 2022. He's made so many errors in 2022 just based on pure pressure. and the team as well. I think it was either 2022 or 2023 where they called him in at the Monaco GP at the wrong time, and he fell to fourth after leading the race. I believe that was last year, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember. But Ferrari's, I think as far as this season goes, now that Fred Vasseur has made a car from himself instead of Mattia Bonotto's car, I think the team management will be a lot better under Fred Vasseur because he helped Alfa Romeo, well, which is now called Sauber, really get a lot better because in 2022, Sauber had their best year since 2012, finishing sixth in the constructors, just barely, or I think tied with Aston Martin at the time, and they only got that sixth place because of Bottas's fifth place at Imola in 2022. So it really the big question is Ferrari going to be a top contender? I don't think they're going to be matching Red Bull, because obviously Max, he's in a league of his own right now. Because he's won, I think, probably like I think 7+ races in a row last year after losing to Checo and Sainz and stuff like that. But the race should be interesting tomorrow. I definitely could see Russell being a podium contender as well, because he's shown good pace in practice and qualifying as well. So I think based on last year, Russell has more of an understanding of the Mercedes. Um, now that he's been there for a while and up to speed with it, because he's shown promising pace last year, let alone the one in 2022 at the Brazilian Grand Prix. So it could definitely be an interesting race for the podium for sure.
Oh, kind of zoned out for a bit. Yeah, I didn't watch testing or practice or qualifying. This past off season, Formula One kind of really pissed me and a bunch of people in the motorsport community off. So I'm just going to say Verstappen, Leclerc, and Perez as your top three for the podium. That's it.
All right. I've been keeping up with it, not really watching, preseason testing live. I was just kind of keeping up with the scoring and everything to see, where's everyone at. But even then, we know preseason testing means fucking nothing. Um, Looking at practice and qualifying as a whole, I'm going safe bet. Verstappen win. I'm trying to think. Perez second, and I'll go Russell third. I feel like Ferrari's still going to need time to build. Yeah, they look good right out of the gates, but I feel like they're going to struggle with the fact that Sainz is obviously frustrated that he's losing that seat at the end of the year. So I feel like they're going to have to worry more about keeping him pleased throughout the year rather than focusing on team management as a whole. So they're going to be looking for next year as their kind of perfection year and just kind of figuring things out more this year than anything. So I feel like it's going to be a Red Bull year. And as Kyler said, Russell seems more comfortable with Mercedes. They seem like they've brought a better car this year, so I've got to go with him getting third. Um, Moving on to trucks at Las Vegas, or well, not really trucks, but to go across the board, obviously.
Well, trucks, I think, honestly, pretty much like anyone in a competitive ride can honestly win it because, it's been a curveball and, who could win these races towards the end of it. But I'm gonna go with Christian Eckes. He's shown good speed on the mile and a half recently. I think last year he did pretty well, at the mile and a half as well. So Eckes is gonna be my pick. Xfinity, honestly, I could probably see one of the junior motorsports cars winning. I could either see Sam Mayer winning or Justin Allgaier, but I'm gonna go ahead and go with Sam Mayer winning um, the race for Xfinity Cup. Honestly, I could see I could see a number of people contend for the win. Larson, Bell come to mind, Bowman as well. But honestly, I could see I could honestly see Larson, sort of steal a win at Las Vegas, to be honest.
Yeah, for trucks, I'm just gonna go on a whim and say Ben Rhodes. I don't know why, but I just got a feeling that it's just gonna be a Thor Sport related driver winning at Vegas.
You
For
should go last.
Xfinity, I feel like it's gonna be a Junior Motorsports car, and I got my money on Justin Allgaier. And for Cup, I got that the Pennzoil Shell kind of conspiracy. I feel like Galen's gonna win at Vegas since he's had pretty good history at that track, and Pennzoil's sponsorship is all over the place. Like with Jimmy Johnson at what used to be called Lowesbury Speedway, I feel like this is like the modern day rendition, but for Logano.
I'm gonna go safe this weekend. No more shit like I pulled last week. Um, for trucks, I'm gonna go ahead and say Christopher Bell wins the Truck Series race. For Xfinity, I'm gonna go with a guy that seems to always be one of the best drivers at Las Vegas, no matter what series he's in. Chandler Smith. As for Cup, hometown advantage, we know what he's capable of, Kyle Busch. I gotta go safe this weekend. I can't use up all my freezing cold takes off the bat. I gotta sprinkle them throughout the year.
Yeah, because JJ Ely last week. Oof.
Well, I thought that was gonna be the Collega, or I was informed that it was gonna be the Collega affiliate car. It obviously was not, and you know he's in the Cup Series race. Maybe he'll win. Yeah, no, New
Yeah.
York Racing doesn't know how to pay their drivers. You didn't hear that from me. Anyways. I think that just about wraps it up, right, guys?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, once again, thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode of the Burning Rubber Podcast. We'll see you guys next week with reviews of Bahrain for F1, reviews for Vegas with NASCAR, predictions going into next week's races, as well as the return of the IndyCar series. So we'll see you guys then. Goodbye.